The cumulative effects of dumping and spills, whether large or small, are serious environmental hazards. And unless we join with the coalition and make it our priority, polluters and pollutants will continue to endanger our rivers. The coalition has worked hard on our behalf. The results were 2 successful prosecutions. A fine of $28,000 was charged against landfill operators for dumping toxic landfill leachates into Schoolhouse Creek. The second fine was for $25,000 and was laid against Richmond Landfill Limited and the Fraser River Harbors Commission. They too were dumping toxic landfill leachates into the Fraser River. These 2 cases, however, are not indicative of the consistency and success in legislative enforcement by the government agencies. After an initial burst of a legislative activity, fines became less, and the enforcement even worse. A toxic site at Burn Road was discovered. The fine? $1,000. The cleanup costs? $10,000. The Blue Lagoon cedar plant was fined under the Fisheries Act for $400. The prosecution costs were $14,000. The PCP spill at Highland Creek? The charges were dismissed. Stadco Forest Products and Meadowland Peat were charged and fined only after years of polluting the river. The fines are not indicative of any legislative intent. The fines do not discourage polluters. And prosecution and cleanup costs are paid by us, the taxpayer.
While we have reasonably good legislation, all levels of government, from municipal through provincial right to federal, have failed to make adequate use of that legislation, particularly at the planning stage. Surveys of Canadian public opinion and British Columbia public opinion indicate that the people of this province and the people of Canada hold the environment in much higher esteem than they did only a few years ago. They in fact don't any longer condone governments doing things that are bad for the habitat. Any improvements that do come by dint of environmentalists working very hard, but working in a disciplined sort of way and working in a cooperative sort of way.
The problems we run into is up at almost the political decision stages, where what we say, one day they say they're going to do something about it, the next day they say there's no money and they don't do anything about it. So this is, I think, the frustrating part in public participation, is basically getting the responsible politicians to take a stand and being able to lobby them to generate funds to do this kind of work. You can have all the legislation in the world, but if you don't have anything to enforce the legislation, then it's not worth the paper it's written on.
The natural environment of river life is endangered. Marshes are being destroyed. Since Simon Fraser discovered the estuary, 70% of the wetlands have been lost. The initial port size of Roberts Bank has increased to 3 times the size that was originally recommended. Seaward of the Tawasin salt marshes, a dike plan which cuts off the marshes has been completed. Deering and Celtic Islands, 2 of the few natural areas on the North Arm, are threatened by condominium development. An environmental management plan is desperately needed for the north side of Sea Island because of commercial development and runway plans. Plans for a public market at the south end of Oak Street Bridge will destroy the area's last healthy marshes. The Richmond landfill is being considered for a new port. The plans call for 600 acres of heavy industry. This proposal will have a monumental effect on the water quality and the shoreline habitat. The adjacent marshland is also endangered by plans to store used cars that are awaiting shipment to Japan. Patrick and Anna's Islands marshes, damaged by fill and urban service lines, have been destroyed by more fill from the Anna's Bridge and Grosvenor Lang International Development. Important tributaries are threatened. Surrey Bend, Downs Creek, continual silting from gravel pits, Reservoir overflow and flood control measures have decimated salmon stocks in the Coquitlam River.
Damage to the estuary can be prevented. And it doesn't really satisfy us even when the Fisheries Act, Section 33, which makes it illegal to dump deleterious things into the river, and people are fined for doing that. We say that while that's necessary, in many cases it's too late. The fish are already dead, the damage has already been done, and that kind of damage is virtually impossible to compensate or provide mitigation for it. What we must have is a progressive, long-term plan for restoration and rehabilitation of the fish habitat. And by doing that, we can make man and the estuary live in peaceful coexistence.
There must be commitment on behalf of government agencies and politicians to investigate, enforce, and prosecute polluters. Prosecution must be speedily enforced. Legislation must be enacted to protect habitat areas outlined in the Fraser River Estuary Study. Valuable marshlands must be protected. Floating log booms must be replaced by a less damaging method of log storage. Industries that don't need river access should be encouraged to locate elsewhere. Damaged marshes must be rehabilitated, and industrial design should include marsh protection. Secondary treatment of sewage should be implemented. Public awareness and participation in the management and enforcement of these issues are not only necessary, but mandatory if we are to keep the Fraser River as a vital, natural, renewable British Columbian resource. It is up to us to see that our elected officials know we care. Our rivers, our city, our province will only be what we together make it. Our civic, provincial, and federal legislators need our input to better protect our natural resources. The Fraser River belongs to you and me, and our efforts together can and will ensure that development and management of the Fraser River is environmentally sound. Be a part of a clean and safe tomorrow. Be involved today.
A more informed public will be a more involved public. God, I hope so.